The Russian invasion of Ukraine, launched in February 2022, stands as the largest European conflict since World War II. Its roots trace back through decades of political tension, nationalism, and competing visions for the post-Soviet world. Ukraine's independence in 1991 opened a long struggle over identity, whether to integrate with Europe or remain tied to Moscow's sphere. This contest deepened after 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea and separatist regions emerged in Donetsk and Luhansk, creating a frozen conflict that shaped all later events. Ukraine's strategic geography magnified the stakes. The country serves as both a buffer and a bridge between Russia and the West, with its fertile plains, industrial east, and Black Sea access, offering economic and military leverage. For Russia, preventing Ukraine's integration into NATO became a central priority. For Ukraine, protecting sovereignty became the foundation of its national future. These opposing ambitions formed the fault line that eventually erupted into full-scale war. Between 2014 and 2021, the Donbas front settled into trench warfare. The Minsk agreements attempted to freeze the conflict, but neither side fulfilled the political provisions. Ukraine strengthened its Western ties through military reforms, NATO exercises, and growing cooperation with the United States. Russia, viewing these moves as a direct threat, expanded its military presence in Crimea and increased its support for separatists. By late 2021, satellite imagery revealed massive Russian troop buildups along Ukraine's borders and inside Belarus. Over 150,000 troops, missile systems, and armored brigades surrounded Ukraine from multiple directions. Diplomacy failed to ease tensions, as Russia demanded guarantees that Ukraine would never join NATO. By early 2022, Western intelligence concluded that Russia had assembled the capability for a multi-front offensive. On the 24th of February 2022, Russia launched a coordinated invasion along 4 major axes. The northern assault advanced from Belarus toward Kyiv, attempting to quickly seize the capital. Airborne forces targeted Hostomel Airport to establish an air bridge, but Ukrainian artillery rendered the runway unusable. A 60-kilometer convoy stalled due to ambushes, fuel shortages, and destroyed bridges. The second axis struck Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city. Russian attempts to encircle it failed amid heavy urban resistance. In the east, Russian and separatist forces pushed to expand control over the Donbas, but progress was slower than anticipated due to Ukraine's fortified positions. The southern axis, advancing from Crimea, achieved the most success, capturing Kherson and establishing a corridor linking Crimea to mainland operations. By the end of March, despite seizing large tracts of territory, Russia had failed to take Kyiv. March 2022. Throughout March, Russia attempted to encircle Kyiv from multiple directions. Ukrainian forces used mobile defense, precision strikes, and the destruction of key bridges across the Irpin River to halt Russian advances. To the northeast, Russia attempted to break Ukrainian lines near Chernihiv and Brovary, but supply issues and targeted counterattacks stalled their efforts. By late March, Russia began withdrawing from Kyiv, Chernihiv, and Sumy to refocus on eastern Ukraine. The retreat exposed devastated towns such as Bucha, where mass civilian casualties were discovered, increasing global condemnation. By April 2022, Ukraine had fully secured the northern regions, marking Russia's first major strategic defeat of the war. The Donbas Offensive, April-June 2022. After the northern withdrawal, Russia concentrated its forces on seizing the Donbas. Heavy artillery became the defining feature of this phase. The cities of Izium, Rubizhne, and Popasna became key launch points for attempts to encircle Ukrainian defenders around Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. Artillery barrages reached tens of thousands of shells per day. The fiercest fighting erupted in Severodonetsk. Despite multiple failed river crossings at Bilohorivka, Russia pushed deeper into the city's industrial districts. After weeks of resistance, Ukraine withdrew across the Seversky Donets River to Lysychansk, preserving manpower for future battles. The fall of Lysychansk, June-July 2022. By late June, Russia intensified its advance on Lysychansk from several directions. Control of the surrounding high ground and the Lysychansk oil refinery allowed Russian forces to sever supply lines. Though Ukrainian defenses held for weeks, growing risks of encirclement forced a withdrawal. On July 3, Russia declared full control of Luhansk Oblast, their most significant gain since the war began. However, this victory came at enormous cost. Ammunition reserves dwindled, casualty rates surged, and Russian units became stretched across long, vulnerable front lines. Ukraine's counteroffensives, August 2022. By mid-2022, Russia's offensive momentum faded. Ukraine capitalized by launching counteroffensives in the south and northeast. In Kherson, Ukrainian strikes on bridges and depots degraded Russia's supply routes. As Russia shifted reinforcements southward, Ukraine launched a surprise offensive in Kharkiv Oblast. The Kharkiv operation was one of the war's most dramatic turning points. Ukrainian forces broke through thinly defended lines, liberated Balaklia and Kupiansk, and forced a large Russian withdrawal from Izium. More than 10,000 square kilometers were recaptured in days, fundamentally shifting the war's momentum. The battle for Kherson, October-November 2022. Ukrainian advances in the south intensified through autumn. Sustained strikes on the Antonivsky Bridge and Russian supply nodes left Russia's Kherson grouping isolated. Facing the risk of encirclement, Russia announced a withdrawal across the Dnipro River. On the 11th of November 2022, Ukrainian forces entered Kherson city, reclaiming the only regional capital Russia had captured. While this withdrawal stabilized Russia's defensive line along the Dnipro, it marked a major symbolic and strategic setback. December 2022, following the loss of Kherson, Russia shifted its focus to Bakhmut. The Wagner Group led brutal infantry assaults aimed at encircling the city. Russia seized Soledar in January 2023, tightening pressure on Ukrainian supply routes. Throughout winter, fighting around Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Vuhledar became emblematic of high-intensity attrition warfare. Russia's attempts to advance at Vuhledar resulted in severe losses. By March 2023, Russia had pushed into eastern Bakhmut, but failed to complete an encirclement, while Ukraine maintained control of surrounding high ground. April 2023. By spring 2023, Ukraine prepared a major counteroffensive using newly supplied Western armor and precision weapons. The main axes targeted Russian defenses in Zaporizhzhia, the Velika Novosilka sector, and the Dnipro River region. Initial advances toward Robotyne and Verbov encountered vast minefields and layered defenses. Ukraine shifted tactics, relying more on infantry and precision strikes. Drone attacks deep inside Crimea and Russia disrupted logistics, hitting ammunition depots, command posts, and the Black Sea Fleet headquarters. By late 2023, Ukraine liberated Robotyne and threatened supply routes toward Tokmak. Naval drone operations forced parts of the Russian fleet to relocate to safer ports. Although territorial gains were limited, Ukraine significantly weakened Russia's logistical depth, stalemate, and global recalibration. 2024, early 2025. By 2024, the war shifted into a prolonged positional phase. Both sides entrenched themselves behind fortified lines across Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. Russia pressed limited advances near Avdiivka, Kupiansk, and Kreminna, while Ukraine prioritized counter-battery warfare and drone strikes deep into Russian territory. Ukraine expanded its drone campaign, hitting refineries and military infrastructure across Russia. In the Black Sea, Ukraine's naval drone strategy reshaped control of the waters, reducing threats to Odessa and grain exports. International dimensions intensified. Ukraine conducted a limited incursion into Russia's Kursk Oblast to divert Russian troops. Russia increased mobilization and accepted foreign personnel, including units from North Korea. Western countries expanded military aid, including systems authorized for use on targets inside Russia. By early 2025, the conflict remained unresolved. Ukraine pursued deeper EU integration, security guarantees, while Russia aimed to consolidate territorial gains and seek recognition of annexed regions. With neither side holding decisive momentum, the war entered a grinding phase, defined by attrition and strategic recalibration. After more than 3 years of continuous fighting, the war in Ukraine remains shaped by shifting front lines, calculated offensives, and a strategic landscape influenced as much by diplomacy as by battlefield developments. As this conflict evolves, so too does its impact on Europe, global stability, and the future of both nations. If you found this breakdown useful and want to follow more detailed, map-based explanations of historic and modern conflicts, make sure to subscribe to Erahive. Your support helps us continue producing clear, factual, and visually rich documentaries. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode.